Have you ever felt invisible? Like no matter how hard you try, you just don't seem to matter in the eyes of those around you. Well, this is the story of a woman who, despite being cast aside and underestimated, used the one thing no one expected: her music to teach the world a lesson about talent, dignity, and respect. It's easy to dismiss people based on their appearance, their job, or where they come from. In this story, a janitor who was looked down upon for her age, race, and occupation surprises everyone in the most breathtaking way. Her performance not only shatters the stereotypes placed upon her, but also forces those who mocked her to rethink their entire worldview. Let's dive into the story of how an elderly black janitor, named Martha, turned the tables at Willow Ridge Academy, a prestigious school where wealth, status, and image ruled over all else. Willow Ridge Academy was the kind of place that exuded opulence. The cars that lined up every morning were worth more than most people's entire lives. And the students who stepped out of those cars carried an air of superiority that seemed impossible to shake. Their lives were gilded with privilege, and they moved through the halls with the kind of confidence that only comes from years of being told that the world was theirs to conquer. And yet, among all this wealth, there was a woman no one paid attention to, a figure so silent, so invisible, that she had become a ghost in the halls. This woman was Martha, the janitor. Martha didn't walk with the same pride as the students. She didn't wear the latest fashion or speak with the same air of authority. Instead, she shuffled along with her mop cart, her hands calloused from years of hard work, her back slightly hunched from the weight of time. To the students of Willow Ridge, Martha wasn't a person. She was just a fixture in the background. But little did they know, Martha was about to show them something that would change their lives forever. What no one knew was that Martha had once been a gifted pianist. In her youth, she had performed on grand stages, basking in the applause of an audience that admired her talent. But life wasn't kind to Martha. Her skin color, her background, these things made her invisible to those who held the power in the world of classical music. She faced rejection after rejection, not because of her talent, but because of her race and her poverty. The world told her that her dreams were too big for a woman like her, and so she buried them. But deep within her, the music never left. Every night, after finishing her work, she would visit a small, quiet church and play the old piano there, letting the music soothe her weary soul. No one could hear her except for the few birds outside or the quiet hum of the city, but the music still lived in her. Enter Madison Harrington, the epitome of privilege. Madison was the kind of student who turned heads the moment she walked into a room. With her golden hair, icy blue eyes, and a family fortune that made her untouchable, Madison was the school's shining star, and she knew it. Her arrogance radiated through every hallway, every classroom. But it wasn't just her wealth that made her superior in the eyes of her peers, it was the way she treated others, especially Martha. Madison would often make Martha's job harder, deliberately spilling coffee on the floor, tracking mud across freshly cleaned tiles, all while watching with a smug smile as Martha silently cleaned up her mess. It was as if the very presence of the elderly janitor was a reminder of everything Madison had worked so hard to rise above. But things were about to change, and it started with a cruel suggestion from Madison. She dared Martha to play the piano. It was an impromptu music day, one of Mr. Grayson's little performances where the students were encouraged to showcase their talent, though it had long been clear that the day was more about affirming social status than nurturing real skill. Madison, knowing full well the effect it would have, suggested that Martha, the janitor, play. Mr. Grayson, whose judgment was clouded by his own biases, eagerly agreed. The students gathered, laughing and whispering, certain that this would be nothing more than a joke. And Martha, trembling slightly, stood before the piano. In that moment, the mocking whispers grew louder. Madison's icy smile was front and center, her eyes filled with malice. Mr. Grayson crossed his arms, looking at Martha as if to say, "This will be entertaining." The students waited for her to fail, but then Martha placed her weathered hands on the keys, and something miraculous happened. The first few notes were hesitant, faint, but then the music began to flow. Martha wasn't playing for the students, or for Mr. Grayson, or even for Madison. She was playing for herself, playing for the dreams she once had, playing for the life she had been first to leave behind. As the soft, deep melodies of Claire de Lune filled the room, the laughter died, the sneers faded. Even Mr. Grayson, who had always been so sure of his superiority, stood frozen, unable to believe what he was hearing. This was no joke. This was talent, pure, raw, unfiltered talent. The students were stunned into silence. No one had expected this. They had thought they would witness the humiliation of the old janitor. But instead, they were watching an artist reveal herself in the most extraordinary way. When the music finally came to an end, the room was still. No one moved. The silence was thick with realization. For the first time, they all understood what true talent was, something that could not be measured by wealth, status, or appearance. The applause came slowly at first, a few hesitant claps, but soon it grew into a thunderous roar. Madison stood frozen, her face pale. She had no control over the room anymore. The students who once looked up to her now saw her for what she truly was, a swelled girl who had used her status to belittle others. And as for Mr. Grayson, the arrogant music teacher who had always favored wealth over true ability, he stood humiliated, his belief in his own superiority shattered. Martha had not only played the piano, she had played their hearts. In that moment, she had forced them to confront the truth that talent, value, and dignity cannot be bought or sold. They are inherent to every person, no matter their background. The world may try to define who we are based on our status, our job, or our appearance, but true talent comes from within. It is not about where you start, but where you go and how hard you fight to be seen. Martha's performance was more than just a moment of musical brilliance. It was a declaration that no matter who you are or where you come from, your value is immeasurable. Martha walked out of that classroom with her head held high, no longer the invisible janitor, but a woman who had reclaimed her worth. And in that moment, the students of Willow Ridge Academy learned the most important lesson of all, that the true measure of a person is never in their wealth, but in their heart and their talent.